Quite a while back, we took a look at RoboCop in WCW in a video that wasn't part of the Blunder series, but it really should have been. Old Alex Murphy showing up to help out the Stinger on a WCW pay-per-view event was definitely a sight to behold, but you know, RoboCop was still a pretty cool franchise, and while it was weird seeing these two completely different worlds cross over, there still would have been younger viewers out there who would have thought RoboCop showing up in WCW was pretty awesome. RoboCop still had some sort of relevancy in 1990 with the second movie coming out and all that stuff. WCW, in their infinite wisdom, decided to do it again the following year, but they went backwards this time. In 1991, they introduced a character from a movie released in 1939, and that movie was based on a book written in 1900. I'm of course talking about Oz, not the Wizard of Oz, just Oz. He had a wizard bring him down to the ring. The obvious question is why? Why on earth did anyone think it was a good idea to put a monster like Kevin Nash in one of the most ridiculous entrance attires in the history of wrestling and have him portray a character based on the fucking Wizard of Oz? Let's have a look in today's episode of WCW Blunder. In March 1986, Ted Turner made a big announcement. He was going to buy the MGM film studio for a massive $1.5 billion. The purchase landed Turner in a whole lot of debt, and just 3 months later, he sold many assets back to Kirk Kerkorian, the same person who Turner initially bought the MGM film studios from. Turner was ridiculed for the purchase by other entrepreneurs in the entertainment field. He ended up only getting around half his money back, but all along, Ted had a plan. You see, Ted held on to something from the purchase that could potentially earn him a lot of money in the long run, and that's the MGM movie catalogue and the cartoon catalogue. Movies that Turner now owned included timeless classics like 2001: A Space Odyssey, Singing in the Rain, Gone with the Wind, and The Wizard of Oz. He also now owned the Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies cartoon series and the Popeye cartoons, so he had quite a lot of content along with his own network to distribute that content. In 1988, Turner Network Television, TNT, made its debut, and that channel began with an airing of Gone with the Wind, and the cartoon catalogue would act as the foundation for Cartoon Network. TCM, Turner Classic Movies, would debut in 1994, and TCM would air classic MGM and pre-1950 Warner Brothers movies. So effectively, Ted's purchase of MGM created 3 incredibly successful channels. In the end, that initial loss that Turner took wasn't so bad after all. They say Ted was a visionary, once a king in the land of broadcast media. It's hard to know if his plan all along was to take a loss and recoup the funds, but it all paid off, of course. Turner Entertainment had been established. It was rumoured that Ted Turner himself wanted to see something done with the Wizard of Oz on his WCW shows, and I'm not so sure if I believe that, to be honest. From everything I've learned over the years, Ted Turner had a hands-off approach when it came to WCW, and anything creative was handled by executive producers or bookers, but nonetheless, higher up in Turner had the ability to tell WCW what they wanted, and WCW would have no real option but to do what they were told. This is also made a hell of a lot easier when you have Jim Herd calling the shots in WCW. As we have discussed before, Herd wanted to introduce cartoony and ridiculous characters to WCW in a poor attempt to compete with Vince McMahon, and his ideas are still ridiculed to this very day. So if Jim Herd and Dusty Rhodes were told to come up with a Wizard of Oz character, then I can't imagine there being any real pushback. It was right up Herd's alley, really. Still, do keep in mind that it's never been confirmed if the higher-ups at Turner actually requested this character, or if Jim Herd and Dusty Rhodes just put it together because Turner owned the rights to the Wizard of Oz. But it also doesn't really matter. A character inspired by the famous book and movie would debut in WCW, and in short, it was absolutely awful. Big Kevin Nash's journey to superstardom wasn't an easy one, no matter what his detractors may say. During his initial stint in WCW, he portrayed 4 characters: Steel of the Master Blasters, Dr. X, the wisecracking Vinny Vegas, and of course he portrayed Oz in the middle of these other 3 gimmicks. Vinny Vegas wasn't too bad. I quite enjoy looking back at Vinny, and that character got him noticed by Shawn Michaels, so it wasn't a complete failure. The Master Blasters tag team was seen as a pair of Road Warrior rip-offs, and the team team went through a few changes too, with Master Blaster Iron getting replaced with Master Blaster Blade. The Blasters lasted all of 5 months, and Big Kev knew it was time for a change. He was excited when Dusty Rhodes approached him in regards to his singles run. He wasn't so excited when Dusty pitched the Oz character though, with Kevin telling Dusty, "You do know that Oz isn't a person but a geographical location." Still, Kevin didn't really have a choice, he was still getting paid, and Kevin Sullivan advised him to go along with it, take the money and make the most of it. On Steve Austin's Broken Skull Sessions, Kevin said Dusty sold it like the movie Tron. You had to get through all these other guys to get to Oz, so he was gonna be an attraction, if you will. Sounds like Dusty was just saying anything to get Nash in those emerald green tights, but Nash is also thankful for Dusty and the big man holds no ill will. If it wasn't for Oz, there'd be no Vinny Vegas, and if there was no Vinny Vegas, there'd be no Big Daddy Cool Diesel. Still, Big Kevin Nash was falling victim to some sort of Turner WCW crossover shit, and really there was no good that could come of this. Nash wasn't going to be the Tin Man, he wasn't going to be the Cowardly Lion, he wasn't even going to be the Wizard of Oz. That probably would have been even more stupid anyway, seeing as the Wizard was just a normal guy. But anyway, let's look at the character debut and we'll see how the geniuses at WCW stumbled their way through this one. Oz would debut at the first ever WCW Super Brawl event on May 19th, 1991. The event took place in St. Petersburg, Florida. Right in the middle of the card after Paulie Dangerously's Danger Zone with Stan Hansen, the camera cuts away to the entranceway where green lights begin to flash. If you thought Oz was just going to walk out here all alone with no pomp and circumstance, then you'd be absolutely wrong. Because here's fucking Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion from the Wizard of Oz getting led up the entranceway by a wizard with a pet monkey. That wizard is Kevin Sullivan, by the way. A voiceover says, "Once upon a time in a land far away, there lived a wizard, but not the Wizard of Oz. His name was the Great Wizard, and he ruled the Kingdom of Oz." So I guess that explains it. Kevin Nash is the Great Wizard. He's like the ruler of Oz, and he's named Oz, so he's Oz of Oz. The voiceover continues, "Now our weary travellers are at the end of their journey as they face the Emerald City." Kevin Sullivan keeps saying "Welcome to Oz," and it becomes really annoying too. We see Oz of Oz standing at the gates of his castle. Oz says, "Come forward, I am Oz, the great and powerful. Who are you? The great and powerful Oz knows why you've come. How dare you come to me? I'll show you who Oz really is. I'll show the world..." What is this? I'll show the world who Oz really is. Dorothy and her cronies run away and the little monkey wants to leave too. Little guy's on a short leash and he's freaking out seeing the pyro. And this giant fucking goon here wearing a cape, a stupid hat and a rubber mask complete with an old man's grey beard. Oz's theme music plays and you can hear Queen's "Another One Bites the Dust" in the bass line. I'm not kidding either, by the way. Sullivan keeps saying "Welcome to Oz," and that little monkey's clearly terrified. Those masks the guys have on are absolutely horrific and creepy. And look at their names here. We have Oz and the Wizard. So to confirm, Kevin Sullivan is the Wizard but not the Wizard of Oz. Oz is the ruler of Oz. He has a cape and I don't know, is that a wizard's hat? I don't think it is, but Oz is also not the Wizard of Oz. He's just Oz. My head hurts. Anyway, Oz and the Wizard get in the ring. Oz removes his mask and hat, and Kevin's only gone and dyed his hair grey. Imagine that. He performs a shoulder tackle on Tim Parker. We see a body slam. Oz then performs an admittedly awesome looking spinning crucifix powerbomb for the win. 26 seconds of action here, folks. The entrance was about 5 minutes longer. So Oz wins in his big debut match. There you go. That monkey, by the way, yeah, that monkey died after the entrance. Kevin Sullivan said he snapped the monkey's neck when pulling the leash after the monkey got scared during the pyro, and he fucking laughs when telling the story too. You can look up the Sullivan interview yourself on YouTube because I'm not going to link to it. The little monkey's still moving around after the entrance, by the way, but yeah, according to Sullivan, the monkey died shortly afterwards. Alright, so far we have a shit gimmick and a dead monkey. Things aren't going too fucking well, are they? Well, the fun didn't stop on television. According to Nash on the Steve Austin Broken Skull show, that cape weighed around 100 pounds and he had to carry it and the mask and the big stupid hat in a big old crate. That crate would have to get checked onto airplanes and brought to hotels and arenas. Austin said that was the biggest rib in all of this, the fucking crate. Nash would take his Emerald Tights to Clash of the Champions 15 next in Knoxville, Tennessee for a match against Johnny Rich. Yeah, Oz only wrestled the big names, as you can clearly tell. Oz has his big stupid Kessel entranceway, he has his big stupid mask and big stupid cape. The stupid little wizard's here too, but of course there's no monkey. 1.5 minutes of action this time, and Oz could have ended it sooner after a big boot, but he brought the illustrious Johnny Rich back to his feet, and again we see that impressive spinning crucifix powerbomb. If there's one good thing we can take from all this, it's Oz's finisher. From here, it's straight to the Great American Bash on the 14th of July 1991, Oz versus Ron Simmons. Oz's first real test in WCW, and keep in mind too, Oz still hadn't wrestled on any weekly WCW shows. This match here at the Bash would be the one I'd recommend out of all the Oz matches, but it's really just picking the best out of a bad bunch. It's probably the most competitive of all his matches, but admittedly, it's hard to get over the way Oz looks too. Kevin Nash is one of those guys who really didn't need any kind of gimmick. Anyway, it starts off as a back and forth affair with neither man getting any kind of advantage. Oz manages to floor Simmons with a big boot, but Ron replies with a drop toe hold. The crowd pops when Oz gets sent over the top rope with a clothesline, and then the camera cuts over to the Wizard and you get completely taken out of the match. Just look at this nonsense. Look at this. Simmons overpowers Oz during a test of strength, but he hits the mat hard after a missed dropkick. Simmons finds himself on the outside where that little shitbag Wizard gets in a cheap shot, but all this still leads to Ron picking up the win after a jumping shoulder block, and with that, Oz just becomes another guy with an elaborate entrance. There's nothing special about him, he isn't invincible, he's just another wrestler with a horrible gimmick, and anyone with any relevance in WCW should have no problems taking this chump down. Even with the defeat at the Great American Bash, WCW still decided to book Oz in 3 more squash matches that would air on WCW television on Saturday night. Jumpin' Joey Maggs thought he could take on Oz on the 17th of August episode of WCW, but he got destroyed in just over 3 minutes. Oz didn't bother to bring the Wizard to this match, and he didn't bother to perform his spinning crucifix powerbomb either. It ended with a sidewalk slam. He also didn't bother to dye his hair grey. The ruler of Emerald City now had blonde hair and the mullet was gone too. The following week, Kevin Grant stepped up to the challenge, and take a look at Mr. Grant here. That's one confident individual right there. Oz performs 2 body slams. He performs a backbreaker where the illustrious Kevin Grant gets his back annihilated multiple times. We see a few strikes to the lower back, we see the sidewalk slam, and Oz wins another one. I've got a feeling we won't be seeing that crucifix powerbomb nor the Wizard ever again. Next up we have Jimmy McKinnon. Again, the confidence is just dripping off this lad right here. His face seemed to really annoy Big Oz, so Nash tried to crush his skull with his bare hands. Jimmy looks like he got hit by a car when he takes a clothesline, and there's a moment in the match where he looks directly at the camera, almost as if to say, please someone, anyone watching this TV show, help me. Oz gets all pissed off with this guy for absolutely no reason, and it's hilarious. Oz ends it with another sidewalk slam, and I've changed my mind. This is actually the best Oz match. I laughed my ass off when watching this one back. In the middle of these tapings though, another match took place that's quite noteworthy. Oz teamed up with the Diamond Stud to take on the Z-Man Tom Zenk and Big Josh, better known as Matt Bourne. Scott Hall's Diamond Stud character also made its debut at Super Brawl 1, the same event where Oz debuted. And here we have Scott Hall and Kevin Nash teaming up for the very first time in what serves as an incredible contrast to what they'd bring to the table as the Outsiders in 1996. Eric Bischoff likes to say that the Outsiders were not supposed to be invaders from the World Wrestling Federation. He maintains that Hall and Nash were trying to get revenge on WCW for their poor treatment in the past. This tag team match here with Oz and the Diamond Stud is that poor treatment, so if you want to take Eric's word for it, you could say that this here is the true origin story of the New World Order. For the record, I think Nash and Hall were brought in to look like WWF invaders, and it baffles me how Eric would think others would look at it any other way, but there you go. If you want to look at it from this point of view, the true genesis of the New World Order started with Big Nash wearing a rubber mask and ruling over Emerald City. It's fucking ridiculous. Big Josh and Tom Zenk won via disqualification. The Diamond Stud whacked Josh with Josh's own axe handle. There was also an Oz vs Sting match in the middle of these tapings. Two beach blonde dudes with pink and green luminous tights. Sounds awesome, but it's nothing special. Sting, of course, got the pinfall win. Oz's journey through mediocrity took him to Clash of the Champions 16 next in Augusta, Georgia. Oz would compete in a Battle Royal, a match that should be right up Kevin's alley, but there were a few other big boys in this one, including PN News, One Man Gang, and eventual winner Elegante. Oz didn't even bother wearing his rubber mask for this one, and it's kind of funny how every time Oz made an appearance, something else would get removed from the gimmick. First it was the monkey because it died, then the wizard fucked off, the grey mullet then got changed, Oz stopped doing his finisher, and now he doesn't have the mask. He ended up in the final four of this Battle Royal with Dustin Rhodes, Elegante and One Man Gang, but Elegante eliminated both Oz and Gang at the end to win the match. Check out Oz trying to get his ass over that top rope after the clothesline. After Clash 16, Oz went on quite the losing streak on the house show loop, but he got the chance to wrestle Sting twice again, and he also got to team up with stunning Steve Austin in October. In saying that, he was also getting beat by Tom Zenk, Big Josh and Van Hammer while on tour, so yeah, things weren't looking too good. As a matter of fact, things never looked good really, did they? Oz went to New Japan for 2 dates in October too, winning 2 tag team matches while teaming up with Jushin Liger in the first and Nakira Nagami in the second. Nash was billed as the Great Oz when working in Japan, and the character was well received too. Still, as soon as he got home, the losing streak continued. Oz would compete at the 1991 Halloween Havoc show in a match against strongman Bill Kazmaier. A very strong man indeed, but a man who had the personality of a doorknob. You'll notice that Oz lost something in this match too. The emerald green tights were now gone. There's a hint of green still visible in his new black tights though, to be fair. But new tights couldn't help Oz at Halloween Havoc 91 because he took another loss after around 4 minutes of action. Big Kaz won with a torture rack and the match was brutal. Oz would make one more televised appearance. He lost to Rick Steiner on TV in about 90 seconds, and Oz wouldn't be seen on WCW television ever again. He did continue to wrestle on house shows, but things didn't get any better. A loss to Arachnaman on the 7th of December shows us how the higher-ups in WCW now felt about the Oz gimmick. It was a colossal waste of time and a colossal waste of money. It's been said that WCW jobbed out Oz because Kevin Nash refused to sign a $300 per night guarantee. WCW were losing money, but still they wanted to retain Kevin Nash. So the Oz character went on a losing streak until something else came up for Big Sexy to do. Kevin took the initiative himself and he came up with Vinny Vegas, a character inspired by actor and comedian Andrew Dice Clay, and a character that, without a doubt, suited Kevin way more. The Oz experiment had ended, thank God. Kevin continued working as Vinny Vegas. He was close to giving up wrestling altogether, but Shawn Michaels saw Vinny Vegas on TV and he thought the Vin Man would make a great bodyguard for the Heartbreak Kid over in the World Wrestling Federation. So, another WCW blunder in the books, and another tale of WCW completely messing up. Oz lives on in infamy though. It's one of those gimmicks that you can't help laughing at, and even Big Kevin Nash doesn't shy away from calling out how ridiculous it all was either. He even refers to his sick Oz hat as a dunce cap. Nash also said that Dusty's vision for Oz wasn't what we got on TV. That thing about Oz being a kind of final boss and superstars having to defeat a ton of other superstars to finally reach Oz didn't see the light of day. But even that sounds too convoluted for WCW standards during this era. If it did happen, I couldn't see it lasting more than a few weeks. It was doomed from the start though. That entrance attire completely destroyed any hope the character had, and Kevin's also the first person to admit that he was still green back then, both from an attire standpoint and from an in-ring work standpoint. Nash said he only started grasping pro wrestling when he stood outside the ring and he watched Shawn Michaels matches while acting as his bodyguard. So what we really get with Oz is a bad character portrayed by a wrestler who, at the time, wasn't overly confident in the ring. There are no good matches here. The job match with old Jamie McKinnon gave me a good laugh, but there's nothing here that I'd recommend. Thank God Kevin would move on to bigger and better things, and thank God he didn't let this WCW run be the end of him. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.